All right, you're welcome back. You're watching TVC Breakfast. And joining us on Skype from Belgium is Global Affairs Policy Analyst, Colin NWEKE. Thank you so much for joining us this morning, and a happy start to you, of course.
I wish you the same. Thank you for having me.
Thank you.
All right, now remember last year there was this crackdown on opposition by Erdogan. Totally over 100,000 people were caught in his net, from teachers to generals and what have you. And of course you have Fethullah Gulen in the US, who's alleged to be part of a coup attempt. Do you think all of this was a way of setting the stage for Erdogan to have his way with this referendum?
I think it has to do with what people are actually saying. As a matter of fact, people are actually saying that this is not just about setting the stage, but that the coup itself was stage managed. You know, going back to the events leading up to the coup, and indeed thereafter up to this point when you know, the referendum was held. So it's a lot is left to be desired in terms of you know, the events leading up to the coup, and indeed the referendum that has now given him you know, massive executive powers.
Okay, let's look at what the referendum entails. Now he has more powers. Now he can stay in office, has two terms for 5 years. Now he can appoint and dissolve the parliament. He can appoint the cabinet members. As it were, didn't he have a free hand enough?
Obviously not, and that was why he actually went you know, to the Turkish people to request the sweeping power that he has obviously had as of yesterday. Of course, it still has to play out fully because, as you probably have gathered, the main opposition party has mounted a very serious challenge to the result, claiming that you know, some of the votes in areas that they control went you know, to the Turkish people to request the sweeping power that he has obviously had as of yesterday. Of course, it still has to play out fully because, as you probably have gathered, the main opposition party has mounted a very serious challenge to the result, claiming that you know, some of the votes in areas that they control, where no was voted, actually you know, were not as they should be. So they are engaging you know, voter fraud and requesting the you know, High Commission for Electoral Affairs in Turkey to recount the vote. So, but let's go with what we are, you know, hearing today, which is that he had 51% as against 49% of, you know, the no campaign. Yeah. It means that his powers are going to be expanded, and, you know, just like you summarized, it means he can hire and fire at will, you know, dissolve parliament, make appointments without record, due process as we know it in democratic setting. Now, what is even more telling is the fact that this is happening, you know, just next to the seat of European powers. And let us not forget that Turkey is supposed to be a candidate to join the European Union. Of these dictatorial tendencies actually playing out in broad daylight. So this is very, very worrying.
Indeed, you took it right out of my mouth. Do we have a gradual evolution into a dictatorship by Erdogan? And these are three cities that actually voted no for him, including Istanbul, his hometown. What does that really say going forward, especially with the perception that, look, Turkey is a deeply divided country right now?
Yes, yes. As a matter of fact, the very obvious is that Turkey is deeply divided as we speak. Now, that is something that, you don't need a microscope to see. Now, the unseen part is that Turkey appears to be drifting gradually but steadily into a state of anarchy. Something needs to happen and happen very, very quickly, because it could very well be argued, taking the worst case scenario, that indeed he legitimately won the referendum. I mean, let us assume for the sake of the argument that that is the case. The events leading up to the referendum itself, and the fact that the gentleman who has actually masterminded this referendum, President Erdogan himself, has had a track record of premeditated arrangements to get himself to the position where he is. Now, we do know that when democratic forces are mobilized and due process is followed, a president who institutes a particular reform or transformation process has to position himself in such a manner that he does not take advantage of the proceeds of the reforms that he made. Now, in this case, that is quite the opposite. It is the opposite because Erdogan, from being the prime minister on whose shoulders the entire political power rests, I mean, that ceremonial president, actually turned things around to make himself the president with more powers. Okay, he contested and won that election.
All right, Collins.
Yes.
Let's look at what can be done. You said something has to be done. Is this from the opposition now or from the international community? Erdogan says, I don't have anything to do with you. Please don't interfere, don't intervene. Just stay in your own country. We can handle our affairs. So who is going to do something?
Well, I wish it was up to President Erdogan alone to determine what happens in Turkey. The rest of the world cannot pretend that something serious is not happening in Turkey and then just fold their arms and do nothing. No, it doesn't work that way. Turkey is meant to be a member of the world community. They have signed up to a number of treaties binding them to some, basic democratic principles, the rule of law, and respect for human rights, and so on and so forth. Now, I just hope that the rest of the world wouldn't feel intimidated and, say, okay, Turkey is a sovereign state, and so we cannot interfere. That would be bad.
I wonder if that's not what's going to happen eventually. And then, of course, you have these two biggest parties, the CHP and the HDP, who are saying they're going to challenge the results of the referendum. What does that mean for the immediate future of Turkey? I mean, you're saying that Turkey might just be a keg of gunpowder that's waiting to explode.
Well, yes, that's what it is. I mean, in the immediate, I think that is one way we can interpret it. As a matter of fact, I do believe that should be the beginning of a long process of restoring order, restoring sanity into Turkey. Now, I believe that the world community, which includes international human rights organizations, as well as different bodies. Don't forget that Turkey is part of NATO. They are maybe candidates to join the European Union. I think all of these bodies, the United Nations as well, they would all have to step in one way or the other to intervene and see that they halt this gradual drift into anarchy.
All right. One interesting thing about this referendum is the fact that by this referendum now you can have younger parliamentarians. By the provision of the referendum from 18 years, really, you can become a parliamentarian. And if you look at the statistics of those who vote, millions of them are between 18, just turned 18, those who hadn't voted before. What does that portend for Turkey?
Well, on the one hand, one can simply say that it is encouraging because indeed you cannot leave out the young people in your political process and, hope to be a fully functional democracy. So to that extent, it is a very positive thing. On the other hand, this is also looked at as a ploy by Erdogan himself to get young people who are the majority, of course, who also are, responding to his populist rhetorics, because that is a strong power base for him. So because it is a strong power base for him, he acted in ways that will empower these young people. And I do hope very strongly that young people will take advantage of this opportunity that they now have, that empowers them. But then, once they get into parliament, they would have to change the law and lock Erdogan out, as well as changing their direct access to him.
So you think then that is the Machiavellian principle that's playing out here, or, I mean, the end justifies the means? He just wanted to hold on to power. Simple. And this referendum was a good way of going about it. Is that what's playing out here?
Absolutely. Because if you look at the scheme of things, you will see that Erdogan is set to be in power until 2029. That is exactly what he has, fashioned out for himself, and that is exactly what is playing out. Now, that is very, very worrying. Like I said, in the middle of Europe, that a dictatorship is being, developed. So it is indeed worrying. And I hope that young people, whom on one hand he has empowered, who also is a very strong political base, will be able to seize on the opportunity, but at the same time, use that same opportunity, having gotten the power, to place Erdogan where he belongs, which is in the annals of history.
Of course, the Europe's Venice Commission has said that Turkey's new order is not compatible with democracy. Now, is this victory for democracy, really, or is it Erdogan's victory?
It is neither victory for democracy nor victory for Erdogan. I think it is, victory for dictatorship. And it has to be combated, with every available means. Because, like you said, an agency of the European Commission has actually issued out a statement condemning this as non-democratic. I think that is the beginning of a process of actually nullifying this whole process and getting Turkey back on democratic track.
Okay,
let's.
Is it going now?
Yes,
oh,
absolutely.
Okay, right.
We'll have to say thank you so much for your time, global affairs and policy analyst Collins NWEKE, speaking to us via Skype from Belgium. Thank you so much.
And have a good morning.
You too. Bye-bye.
Bye.